congratulations, and we are excited to get going. So, without further ado, would you please join me in welcoming America Ferrera, Gosling.
We got Check, stand up. Show him his sweatshirt. Okay.
All right, well, thank you guys. Congratulations. And Margot, this all starts with you, I believe. What first gave you the idea that a Barbie movie might be worth pursuing, and then how did you have to get a lot of people on board, starting with Mattel and Greta Gerwig, and then these fine folks? Just take us back to the beginning.
I shall. First of all, can I just ask, who here just saw the movie for the first time? Wow, what do you think? That's so fun. Yeah, like, I hope it was fun. Yeah, the journey started more than 5 years ago. I knew that the property was around, perhaps going to be a movie, perhaps not, and kind of thought, wow, if the rights ever become available, I'm going to go after it, because it's such a globally recognized, I mean, the word itself is just known, and people have memories associated with Barbie, good or bad, all around the world. And I thought, wow, it's a huge opportunity, and terrifying, a lot of ways to do a Barbie movie wrong, but it did seem like a really big, exciting opportunity. And yeah, we had to convince Mattel, of course, to let us, make it. And at the time, we were a much younger production company, so that was, a bit of a sell. But they got on board, and I said I wanted to go to Greta Gerwig. We set it up at Warner Brothers, went after Greta. Greta said, yes, there's one condition, I want to write it with Noah. And we were like, brilliant. And then that process began. And no one saw the script until they fully completed the script. So not Warner's, not Mattel, not me. And I read it and thought, it's so brilliant, and it's so sad that this will never get made, because they're never going to let us make it. But they did. They were all exceptionally brave. And then, of course, Greta and Noah had written everyone's names into the script. So it said Barbie Margot, it said Ken Ryan Gosling, it said America. Well, actually, no, you were Gloria in the script, because the Barbies and Kens were all written in. So everyone the rest of it was manifested literally on the page to become the movie it is.
Now, Greta initially was not also left to direct it, right? They were writing it, but how did that shift, that she would also be directing?
Well, I wanted her to direct from the beginning. I think she wanted to get that first step out of the way, and then I think once they had written it, she was like, oh, I can't let anyone else direct this. And likewise, I hadn't committed to acting in it, only because I wanted her and Noah to write the script they needed to write, and if I wasn't the right person for the role, no hard feelings, sort of thing. So I was just on board as a producer, and she said, no, we've written it for you, we want you in it.
So Ryan, my understanding from Greta is that she was convinced that you were great for Ken from the very beginning, but that it took a little bit of time for you to come around to that. What was going on in your mind about playing this gentleman?
Thank you for calling him a gentleman. It was such an incredible script. It was undeniable, but it did occur to me that this might be the hardest role ever. Because how do you approach playing a 70-year-old crotchless doll nobody cares about? I mean, there's no research material for that. There's no documentaries you can watch. There's no one you can shadow. I could tell you what that might be like. You're on your own. But the upside of that eventually is that no one can tell you you're doing it wrong. Well, the internet told me I was doing it wrong. And Margot, of course, and Greta could have told me. Sometimes your eyes told me I was doing it wrong. They never officially said it. So, you know, it was a process, but I realized just how well observed. Barbie landed in my house at the same time. The Barbie the doll and also the script, and my kids were sort of playing with Barbie and not playing with Ken. And I did see him like out in the backyard, face down in the dirt one day. And I took a picture of it and I sent it to Greta, and I was like, his story should be told.
Now, I guess that also makes me want to ask, did any of you grow up with Barbie yourself, or Ken? America, did you?
No. To be honest, I was not a Barbie girl. It was kind of unattainable to me. It was very expensive, and we couldn't afford Barbie dolls and all the accoutrement. I didn't necessarily feel represented in that world. Barbie, she's been around a long time, and sometimes she's been ahead of the curve, and sometimes she's been behind the curve, and when Greta called to say I wrote a Barbie script, but hear me out, I was compelled because I knew Margot and Greta were at the head of it, and they're brilliant, talented, deep, interesting women, and I was so curious to see what they would do with it. And by the time I got to the end of the script, I was a Barbie girl, and I was invested and felt like, wow, like of all the versions of a Barbie movie that we could get in 2022 or 2023, like, I'm so glad this is the one we get, and that it's taking the opportunity to include more of us who haven't historically seen ourselves represented in that world. And so it was, for me, such a no-brainer. I was a convert by the end.
And just for the record, Margot and Ryan, Barbies as a child?
Not really for me either, but I just felt kind of, I don't know, indifferent. She wasn't high on my priority list. My mom was exceptionally surprised when I told her I was going to play Barbie. She was like, oh, I couldn't even get you to wear a dress when you were a kid. So I didn't see this coming either.
Right. Well, how early on was it clear the degree to which this was going to be musical? I mean, there's choreographed dancing, which must take a lot of work. There's musical performance, singing performances. And I mean, also, arguably the greatest soundtrack of a movie ever, with Billie Eilish, Phineas, Dua Lipa, Lizzo, you could go on and on. And so I guess I just wonder how that was presented to you guys from the start in terms of what Greta was envisioning.
I mean, we talked about the music even in the pitch to the studio initially. We said it was going to be, it was going to feel like a big dance party, and that always kind of was the criteria. But I'll let Ryan talk about some of his more musical moments, because they were definitely the highlight of the film.
It sort of evolved, right? I mean, it although it felt like it always should be there, I guess, I had a terrible idea at one point where I thought Ken should dance his feelings. And I told that to Greta, and she was like, okay, well, I'll work on that with the choreographer. And then we did. I had this thought that I should dance with my mink, like I would have a duet between me and the mink, and we'd be fighting. And we worked on it for a few days, actually, and then the choreographer got a text, and she said, the mink dance is dead. And I was like, what do you mean the mink dance is dead? She said, they killed it. And I said, who killed the mink dance? And she said, I can't say who, but it came from the top. And I was like, okay. And then they were like, but Mark Ronson might write a song. So, then the mink dance was tabled. And this sort of other kind of whole, other thing, this dream ballet sort of started to take form, which was an amazing kind of evolution, and just kind of a testament to how Greta works. You know, she just she's so precise about what she wants, yet at the same time she's able to sort of constantly keep evolving it and just take these massive swings, like a whole musical number suddenly at the end.
I heard she showed you guys specific classic musicals, is that right? To get just as reference points?
Yeah, we did a thing called Movie Church. So every Sunday morning at the Notting Hill Electric, because we were shooting in London, we would watch a movie that was in some way a reference for Greta. So whether we were watching like His Girl Friday for the pace at which they talk, or we'd watch The Red Shoes because it was a big inspiration for the colour LUT that we ended up coming up with. Rodrigo came up with our cinematographer. And yeah, the big soundstage, 50s soundstage musicals were a big reference. Also just in how the aesthetic of the world, like the painted sites and everything needed to feel tangible because it's a toy world, but Barbie was also created in the 50s, 1959. So it from the beginning, Greta wanted to anchor it in that way, and she loves those movies.
Yeah. So tone must have been something that you guys talked about a lot, because I could see it being a tightrope. You know, if you guys are all in a different movie, this thing could be a disaster. But as Greta's put it, you know, you're doing the thing, but also subverting the thing. And so I just wonder, you know, how, I'm sure the other movie references were probably to some degree for that as well, to get on the same page. But do you remember conversations about, you know, just how big you should go with things, or how, you know, or even watching maybe rushes and things to see that it was on track?
I don't know how it felt to you, but I remember when we were doing rehearsals beforehand, Ryan was like keeping it pretty low key, and I remember thinking like, it's gonna be pretty grounded like that. Okay, I'm gonna adjust the way I'm gonna do it. I was gonna go a bit bigger, but I'll go smaller. And then on day one, Ryan was just like 150%, and I was like, oh! It was always about calibrating your performance with whoever you're on screen, because in this movie you really do go from moments of huge physical slapstick comedy, and it's ridiculous and absurd intentionally, and then, you know, 2 minutes later on screen you need people to be feeling that gut-wrenching, you know, emotional moment that they connect with, and to keep that all existing in the same film. Yeah, you just are trusting the director, who is a genius, and also calibrating. But yeah, I think we were both trying to like find at the beginning, and then about halfway through we're having like massive, you know, adult tantrums, throwing clothes off greenhouses, and just, it was so ridiculous. It was the most fun ever.
I think the truth is that there wasn't a comp. There was nothing you could point to say like, this is what that movie is, and that's the genius of Greta, to be able to bring a whole new vision and tone that encapsulated everything from fever dream ballet sequences to like really sobering, you know, emotional moments. And I felt in particular like I never knew what it was supposed to be. I just felt like Greta knew exactly what it was supposed to be, and that she would tell you. And like she could hear it. Sometimes she would just have you say the lines, and she would close her eyes and she would just listen for the cadence and the speed of the lines. And so I felt so comfortable and safe knowing that she knew exactly what it needed to be. And when it came to do the monologue, which we had spent months and months talking about, you know, I had expected the same thing. I expected to walk onto set and for her to be like giving me that kind of very precise cadence, you know, direction. And instead she went completely the other way and was like, I don't know, let's just do it and find out. And you know, to speak to what's your name again? Ryan? To speak to what Ryan was saying, is like, that's the incredible capacity of Greta as a director, is to like know exactly what it is and also be completely open to discovery and to finding it with you. And it was really a gift, and the faith went both ways. Like we had so much faith in her, and she had so much faith in us.
Please.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that I did. It's Brian, by the way. Brian Reynolds. No, Ken, so I didn't feel qualified to make any tonal decisions. But I just was trying to get Barbie to notice me in every scene, and she never did. So I just had to keep escalating it to try and just get her to even get Margot to look at me in a scene or something, and she wouldn't.
Well, let's dive in a little bit more to some of the specifics of your performances. Margot, I think the thing that it's even more appreciable on like second viewing. So for so many of you guys, you're here, you're just enjoying the movie. The second time, I noticed more and more of the things that you guys are doing to, I think, shade these the nuances. And Margot, what's amazing is the transition from her being a doll to being a human is done, it seems like, in very subtle steps along the way with, voice, posture, words that she's using, all of that. So I wanted to ask you if you can talk about doing that, especially as a reminder to folks who are here who, I guess, are not actors. Like, you're not shooting in sequence, so I'm assuming you had to map that all out. So take us into that process.
Thank you for noticing, or not noticing on the first watch. That was definitely, I did want there to be an evolution with the character. I wanted her to start off, obviously, as a doll and obviously as a human, but I thought I thought she needed to start off very, very certain and very uncertain, but in a great way. And so I, worked closely with Jacqueline Duran, our costume designer, and Ivana, our hair and makeup artist, to make sure that at the beginning she was dressing in very, block colors with geometric patterns. Her hair was big, voluminous Barbie hair, and we had like 9 wigs, so it would slowly get smaller, smaller, smaller until by the end it's a little more human-like. And likewise with the clothes, the fabrics would get softer and softer until they were a little more vulnerable, like you would be as a human, but still feminine. I didn't want her to get to the end and like in that last scene suddenly be like not a girly girl anymore. I think she's always going to be a girly girl, but I wanted there to be an element of like human fragility and vulnerability in a really beautiful way. And I wanted there to be an uncertainty in the way that she moved and spoke, and it went from being very definitive and intentional, and she's never had a second thought. She's never had to second guess anything at the beginning of the movie, and by the end she does. So she does hesitate when she talks and stutters and stumbles on the words and doesn't know what to say, but at the beginning it's very much like, I'm having a dance party, there's going to be bespoke choreography, you should come by. It's always very like, certain, and then the uncertainty of life kind of is reflected in how she starts. That's what I was going for. I don't know if any of that tracks, but that was the idea.
I just want to add that I had the opportunity a few times in the hair and makeup trailer to just get a glimpse of Margot's script. And it's like nonsense like Da Vinci's notebooks. There's been more, there were so many little notes and drawings and graphs, and I was like, how much thought have you put into this? It's incredible. I've never seen a script quite like that. It should be in a museum somewhere.
I hope you
An Academy Museum.
Ryan, with and pre and post experiencing the human world, did you I guess, can you talk about your own version of that, just how you were going to play the character differently before and after? I think there clearly, his personality changes, but that means your performance changed.
Yeah, it was, well, we didn't shoot the real world stuff until the end, which I'm kind of glad, because I had Ken privately, on stages, but when you can publicly, it's a whole other thing. And I was glad it was the end, because I don't know that I could have come back and shot more after Ken publicly. I needed some time to regroup.
Great. America, you referenced the monologue, which everybody goes nuts about every time it's played. I read, doesn't mean it's correct, but I believe that it is, that you and Greta developed that together, that there's things drawn from your own experiences. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, no. The answer is no. That's not correct. The words on the page were always the words on the page. Like, we maybe added one line and took away like a couple prepositions. But the words, like the words you hear are the words that Greta and Noah, but probably Greta. We spent months, I mean, talking about Gloria as a whole, which obviously was, her journey was leading up to that moment of expression for her and for the Barbies. And we went back and forth and shared like everything. I mean, Greta's knowledge of film is so incredible. I mean, she's an encyclopedia, and she'll reference everything from like, you know, silent films and Polish DPs to like Paw Patrol. You know, she's like, you know that scene in Paw Patrol? I'm like, no. They shot, you know, and she's such a lover and like also has like a mind that's like a vault, you know, and she'd say, watch Close Encounters for like this relationship, and watch Purple Rose of Cairo for like for this brightness in her eyes, you know, and so it was so amazing to get to develop just a sense. It was really just about an essence and a sense of what that monologue meant and held. And then of course we were seeing it pop up all around us in the culture between, you know, TV shows and articles and women in Congress after Roe v. Wade had been reversed, and like the essence of that monologue was unavoidable in the world and in the culture. And so we just continued to, you know, share the things that related to it. And so in that way, we grew it together. And when we were on set, it was like, you know, it's like we just felt that we knew what we were doing. But in terms of the words, those words were her. The only line that wasn't there that came out of our conversations was the like, always be grateful line, which was the line that we added.
You remember how many takes that was?
I mean, it felt like a million.
She did
But,
that
yeah.
so many times, and she did it at that level that you see on screen. She did it like that every time, and she had me crying. I was crying the whole time. The ADs came up and tapped me on the shoulder, and they're like, "You don't need to cry, you're off camera." And I was like, "I'm not trying to cry." Making me cry. It's so every time felt like the first time.
That's great. And just some